Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It's Tuesday, June 24th, about 8:40 at night, and this will be the daily update video for YieldMax Fund's ULTY, which is the Ultra Option Income Strategy Fund, and LFGY, the Crypto Industry and Tech Portfolio Option Income ETF. Just a reminder, I'm on X at ETF_Inspector1. Let you know when videos are coming out, or as in yesterday's case, when they're running behind, and provide the link for them as well. I don't know why, for some reason, sometimes when you post the link, it shows you the actual clickable, thumbnail. Other times it just does the link, but I wish it would do the thumbnail because I think people are more likely to click on that. Anyway, we're up to 924 subscribers, so getting close to that 1,000. Then the focus of the goal will change over to watch hours, because that is still around 2,300 right now, and we have to get to 4,000 to meet the YouTube criteria. All right, as far as the funds and stocks within it, the underlyings, pretty big green day for the most part. ULTY up to $6.29. That's a real nice place to be sitting right before we announce our distribution. So whatever it is, we'll still end up higher than where we started. So as we keep on getting distributions despite losing on options, we are maintaining our NAV. But as we scroll through, see lots of green, just a little bit of red sprinkled in. Especially on LFGY. They went up 3.3% today, and literally I believe there was only one stock within the whole fund that was in the red. So we'll take a closer look. You probably also noticed on the thumbnail that we sold out of hims and hers, and we went ahead and added two new stocks to the fund, and they were Micron Technology and Nike. You'll see them right here. So they put money to work. They sold some shares of Circle Internet Group. Didn't sell out of the stock completely, just taking some profits. So that's pretty nice, right? I looked back earlier today to see what we bought Circle Internet for, and it was about 110. So and it was like last week. So we bought it for 110 and sold it for 247. Can't beat that. But hims and hers got beat up real bad the other day. I'm assuming that's why they sold out of it. I don't know why, though. That would have increased the IV for sure. But then we took the money from these three sales, as well as the money, if you saw yesterday's video, there was a large increase, people buying into the fund, and there was another increase today. So took that and spread it amongst almost all the stocks and funds within the fund, just to add to it. So for the most part, as we scroll through, we'll see these two liners, and they are just selling more options to go along with the shares that were purchased today, because they always put the maximum they can to work. So if they added 2,800 shares of AppLovin, then they sold 28 more contracts on the options. They do a collar strategy. If you're not familiar with that, you own the shares, you sell calls out of the money to collect premium to create the income, and then you buy puts also out of the money on the lower side, and that protects the price of your shares. And this strategy seems to be working really well for this fund, better than most of the other funds. So they have been consistently losing on these options trades, because the stocks, the underlyings, have been increasing and blowing past their sold call positions. So they collect the premium for that, but then it blows through it, so then they have to pay more than they collected to close it out. But then the stocks themselves increase in value, which is going to increase your NAV. So then you're able to take a distribution from that and still maintain it without dropping. And then if the stock does drop, you'll see things like what we see here. So hims and hers took a big hit the other day. So we sold out of the stock, and when we closed out these puts, these protective puts, we collected another over $5 million. So that's what's helping us when the stock goes up. The NAV goes up regardless of whether we made or lost money on the trading. And when the stock goes down, the value drops, but then the value that we receive selling these puts goes up to offset it. So I'm really liking the way they are handling things. So we'll get through it. Okay, so AppLovin profited $24,000 just selling more options. AST Space Mobile, they did a roll, right? Closed their 50s and had to sell 56s. So that's obviously going to hurt. $710,000 loss. I had a conversation with one of the comments back and forth asking about the puts. Why are they buying and selling the puts? So for the most part, every once in a while they'll roll the call without adjusting the put, but generally if they roll the call up, they're going to roll the put up as well. So now they can now protect the higher price. So if it falls back to where it was, they're going to make more money on the put. But we generally don't talk about it because it's just a protective put, or it's just an insurance policy. So if the insurance policy is making money, that means the stock's dropping. So we're trying to make option income coming from selling calls. Okay. Coinbase also ran up, right? This has been happening a lot lately. They closed their 315s. They sold 350s. Obviously, that hurt. Paying $22+ a share and only collecting 4 to 7. Too bad they didn't sell them all at 7. But $1.3 million loss. Circle Internet Group. Like we said, they sold 61,000 shares. So they had to close out 610 contracts that were open because they now don't have the shares to hold those contracts against, and collected 560,000. First Solar added more shares, added more options, $31,000 profit. We already talked about hims and hers, just closing that out. We actually profited $5.1 million. Robinhood sold some more options to go with the new shares, $58,000 profit. Same thing for this long list here. So IonQ 20,000, LabU 18,000, Mara 2,000, MicroStrategy 23,000. As far as MU and NKE, that's the new ones. Micron Technology and Nike. So these are a little bit bigger because these are selling the full amount after we just bought a full position into them. So we collected 190,000 on MU and 165,000 on NKE. NVIDIA selling more to go along with the new shares, $14,000 profit. Oklo, we had to roll, bought to close our 58s, sold 65s. And then, so here's the 2,200 contracts and 2,200 contracts again. And then since they bought more shares, they did another 262. So all in all, $432,000 loss. Palantir just adding to go with the new shares, 9,000 profit. Same for Reddit, 46,000, and Rigetti, 28,000. SMCI and TEM, 5,000 and 18,000 profit. And then TNA, we rolled them. They went through the 3150s. So we closed them out for $1.74 and sold 34s for 78 cents. Plus we did some more when we bought more shares. All in all, losing $611,000. TQQQ just adding more, $7,000. Same with Tesla, $14,000. Upstart, we had to roll, closed the 56s and sold 67s. And so far, TNA, we actually had to roll to next week, July 3rd. Same with Oklo. Same with AST Space Mobile. Everything else still June 27th. Upstart, we said we went to 67, lost 1.6 million. And then VRT and VST, Vertiv and Vistra Corp, selling more options to go with the new shares, 14,000 and 11,000. So thanks to closing out HIMS and those puts making so much money, it turned, even though we had multiple calls go against us, we actually still had a profitable day, 1.6 million. And since I didn't hide it, you can see this here. If you were following, last Monday was our biggest value increase ever. Then Wednesday we beat that with 19.6. Now this Tuesday, today, we beat it again, 20.1 million. I don't know if I'm going to keep on following that every single time, but since it's right there and obvious, we'll talk about it. So, but at the same time, the fund continues to grow, more people buying in, more value increase, so it's going to be easier to make larger dollar amount increases. All right, when we take a look at the holdings, if you watched yesterday's video, I was pressed for time, so I did it a little differently, and I got some good feedback. People kind of liked that, helped us get through it a little better, so I think I'm going to try it again. So tell me, let me know if you, hey, I don't like this. I want you to read line by line everything. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to read the individual. Not going to read the individual closing price, not going to read the individual change in market value. We'll talk about the increase percentage and where it leaves the options. And then at the end, we will just tell the total increase or decrease in value. And we'll highlight things like Coinbase was our biggest gainer in the fund, up over 12%. And Circle Internet Group, our biggest loser, down over 15, almost 15.5%. So. Our color coding, so that was just our biggest winner and loser. But when we're talking about our options, in the money, out of the money, we want them to be out of the money because we sold a call. We want it to end out of the money and be worthless at the end, so we get to keep all that premium. When it goes in the money, that's bad. That's why we color it red. Yellow would be close, but good but close, so it's less than 5% in our favor. Green is greater than 5% in our favor or out of the money. Okay. I think I talked about it. ULTY closed at 629. All right, let's get through these. AppLovin up 4.2%, taking the options into the money by 1.2%. AST Space Mobile up over 6%. They were practically at the money, so now they're 6% in the money on those options. Coinbase, like we just said, the biggest gainer. So I just noticed I forgot to mark the ones that got rolled. So I apologize for that. I do remember AST, Space Mobile, and Coinbase being ones from the roll page. Yep, AST, Coin, Oklo, TNA, and Upstart. Hopefully I'll remember that as we get through. All right, so those are not actually what the current position is. The new holding of the options will come out tomorrow, and the holdings updates happen in the morning. I update the charts in the morning, and then the end of day stuff happens in the afternoon, and the intraday trades. Circle Internet Group lost 15.5%. We didn't roll any of these. We did close out a portion of them from the 61,000 shares we sold, though. First Solar up 4.5%. That took them 0.78% in the money on their first call strike price at 150, and then the 152.50s are still 0.8% out of the money. Hims and Hers, we don't care. We closed it out. We don't have our options anymore. We don't have shares anymore. Robinhood up 7.4%, taking both their 80s and 81s into the money, 2.4 and 1.2%. IonQ lost 0.68%. So their 40s were already in the money. They're coming back to the good a little bit, but they're still 2% in the money. And then they have 42.50s and 43.50s, with that being the largest number. They're 4 and 6.5% out of the money. LabU, it's a triple leveraged biotech bull, up 5.5%. So those calls are now 2.7% out of the money. Mara Holdings went up nearly 5%. So we were sitting pretty, and now we're 0.8% out of the money on the first 953 contracts, but then we have another 10,000 contracts that are 4% out of the money. So we want it to stay under 15, but definitely under 15.50. MicroStrategy up 2.68%, taking those calls into the money by 0.5%. NVIDIA up about 2.6%, bringing those calls almost to the money. They're still 0.07% out. Oklo, we said these got rolled, so increase of over 10% on the day. So these got rolled. That's not what's there anymore. Palantir up 2.37% to 143.23. That brought their 142s into the money by 0.8%, and their 148s are now 3.3% out of the money. Reddit up nearly 5%, leaving their 141s just barely out of the money by 0.15%. Rigetti up 6.58%, bringing their... I thought about putting a new color on there, but I just went with yellow. They are exactly at the money, 11.50, 11.50. So I decided to go with yellow because technically an 11.50 call is worthless with the stock at 11.50 at closing, so it won't be worthless now because there's still days to trade it, but that will decay away. Their 12.50s are 8.7% out of the money, but we need it to go under 11.50 because that's where we have almost 13,000 contracts. RH down 1.18%. Their calls are still 3.2% out of the money. SMCI went up 4.77%, but their calls are still 5% out of the money. Tempest AI up 4%. Calls are 2.5 and 8.3% out of the money. Good bit more at the 8.3%. TNA, it's another triple leverage fund, up 3.5%. That took these further into the money. I think, did we say TNA was one of the ones we rolled? Yes, it was. Okay. And then Upstart will be the last one. So we're not worried about these anymore. That's not what's there. We went ahead and rolled those. TQQQ, the last triple leverage fund, up 4.5%. They're only about 2.7% in the money, so they're going to let these have a little more time decay before they decide to roll them, hoping that they'll come back down a little. Tesla down 2.35%, but they still have calls in the money. Let's see which one they rolled. Was it the 337 or the 367? Oh, never mind. It wasn't Tesla. It was Upstart. Sorry about that. So they are 0.8% in the money on the first 250 contracts, and they're still almost 8% out of the money on the other 690. Upstart went up almost 10%, 9.8%. That took their 56s way in the money, 13.5% plus, and their 62s 4.3%. I think they left the 62s. Yes, they did. So they only closed the lower, the 2,200 contracts at 56. They still have 2,700 contracts at 62. So they are going to need some downward movement on that one. Vertiv Holdings up almost 5%, taking them in the money by 0.25%, and Vistra Corp down 0.2%, leaving them 2% out of the money. So like we said already, $20 million increase in value of the fund based on all the underlyings increases and decreases, mostly increases. So we will most likely be over 600 million at the start tomorrow. Another large increase in outstanding shares, 5.75 million added, bringing us up to 95 million. We're closing in on that 100 million outstanding shares. So this NAV is all current as of close of business yesterday. The NAV and the net assets never catch up until there's a day off from trading. But you can rest assured it's going to be within a couple cents of 629. Let's see, we got rid of hims and hers with an 85.5%, so that's not good. And for some, I doubt Nike's got a real high. We'll see it tomorrow when I add it to the fund chart. Okay, we'll take a look at LFGY now. A lot less to go over. Yesterday, where are we at? Yesterday, I think they only had one set of trades, and today they only had two. So Coin, they went ahead and closed their 325s, obviously taking a hit on those, and sold 36s, or 360s. But what they also, let's take a look, Coin. So this is all they had. So they bought the close, the calls. They sold the call it the insurance. This one does not do a collar strategy. They only sometimes they just sell the calls and with no protection, no insurance. If it just keeps running, then the price to close them is just going to keep on getting higher. Other times they will do a call spread where they sell a call and then buy a call further out. That will limit how much you can possibly lose. So what they did was they sold their limiter to collect money on it, and then they sold the new call without any kind of insurance or protection. So now we really need to make sure Coinbase does not run past 360 by the end of the week. But they lost on that roll. So as you can see, the reason they sold that was to try and make up for part of the loss of buying to close. And then NU Holdings, they had a rough day here. So they closed their 12s for 91 cents a share. They sold 13s for 14 cents a share. And then the stock kept on running, so then they had to buy to close those 13s that they had just sold for 14. They had to pay 56, so they just kept losing. Finally settled at selling at 14. So 14 will be the new, and they had to roll out to next week to do it. So this was a brutal day trading. They got it wrong twice, but $230,000 loss. Add them together, comes up to a $523,000 loss on the day. Take a look at how the stocks or the underlyings performed. Obviously, we know they did well. There was literally only one in the red, so easy to find our biggest loser because it's our only loser, and that was Tesla, 2.35% down. Our biggest gainer was CleanSpark, up almost 13.5%. So BitDeer went up 0.64%, but that's fine. Their calls are still 13.8% out of the money. CleanSpark thought they were doing good before today, but after a 13% increase, that took their calls 5% in the money. Coinbase up 12%, so almost just as much. They went ahead and rolled these, as we just talked about, twice. Was that the one, Coinbase? No, NU's the one they rolled twice. So let's see, 344.82. They rolled to 360. So Core Scientific up 7.5%, still 2.3% out of the money. Galaxy Digital up 6.7%. That took these 47 contracts 1% in the money, but what we care about these 1,000 contracts, they're still 4% out of the money. GameStop went up a little over 2%, still 5.2% out of the money on those. Robinhood up 7.4%. That took us into the money on these 79s by 3.67%. Hut 8 Corp up 8.5%. Luckily, we were way out of the money, so we're still 4.4% out of the money. IBIT increased by 2.37%, so we made some increase in value there. They don't do options with them. Mara Holdings up 4.94%. Still out of the money, but not by much, 0.8%. So we need to stay under 15 by the end of the week. MBTX went up to 250.16. We don't care necessarily on the increases of MBTX itself because we don't actually own any shares of it. They just sell trade the options. So there is no increase or decrease in value of the fund when the price of MBTX goes up. It's just whether our options increase and decrease. So the 260 calls are still 3.9% out of the money. And the 230 put is still, it's out of the money. This is too confusing to change the coloring, but this is the one we actually want this to go in the money, but I didn't want to confuse people putting red on a negative number, but we need this to go under 230 before December 31st by a lot. Mercado Libre up 3.1%, taking them roughly 3.1% in the money. So 24.50 was the call strike price, and they're now at 25.28. That's 2,000, not 25 and change. MicroStrategy up 2.6%. They're still 2.1% out of the money. As you look, like I don't sit and talk about every one of them, but you can see the ones that have anything with a negative next to it is something we sold. Anything not negative, as far as in this contracts column, is purchased. So if there's two and one's negative, one's positive, then you have a spread there and you are capped on what you can lose. If you just have the single option sold with nothing else with it, then there's no limit to how much you can lose. Now, if you were doing this yourself, right, it wouldn't be necessarily losing money because you would just have your shares get called away. It wouldn't cost you anything, but they do not let anything go to assignment. So if the price runs up, they pay to close it. NU Holdings up 8.8%, taking their calls 10+% in the money. That's why they rolled them. This was the one where they rolled it twice. NVIDIA up 2.6% almost, taking them in the money by 1.2%. So we'll need them to come back down under 146. That's a $1.90 drop. Opera up 3.36%. Still 10% out of the money, so those are still, we're comfortable there. PayPal went up over 2%, taking them into the money by 0.79%. Need them to come back down 58 cents. Riot Platforms up over 8%, taking our shares 0.2% in the money. This is the smaller position, 181 contracts at 10. The one that matters, 6,000 contracts at 10.50. They're still 4.8% out of the money. Tesla, the only stock to go down in this fund, 2.35%, taking them almost 8% out of the money. So they are looking good for a win for the week. And Block up 2.7%, still 1% out of the money. So as you saw on the last screen, we increased by $7.4 million. It's probably going to take us a little over 140 million. It could always, it's not an easy perfect math. Just add that there, right? Because we have the loss in trading, and then you also could have an increase or decrease in outstanding shares that would affect that as well. So, all right, that's everything I got for you. Hope you like this different format where I don't read every single increase or decrease in market value. Let me know one way or another if you like it or you don't like it. But dad joke of the day. I was trying to figure out how to reword this to make it funnier, but I didn't nail anything down, and I can't think on the fly when the record button's clicked, so I'll just read it to you straight. But before I do, thank you for watching. Thank you for everybody, all the comments and likes and shares and subscriptions. Not subscriptions. Yeah, it is subscribe. I don't know what I'm talking about. Thought I said membership maybe. But appreciate it. If you're not a subscriber already, please do. Please let other people that have LFGY or ULTY know about these videos. So, all right, dad joke. Did you hear about the cold dinner? It was chilly. See, I feel like there's just a funnier way you could have put that. But anyway, good luck trading tomorrow. Catch you in the Wednesday video. Watch out on X in the morning. I'll repost the declarations for all of the, I think it's Group C that's going to get declared tomorrow morning. And then there will be videos for ULTY LFGY as well as the monthly individual income funds that I cover. So have a good night. Talk to you tomorrow.